Well, my editing skills are crap. But can the same thing be said about life? Stick around and find out. I'm going up to the spirit in the sky. It's where I'm gonna go, and I... All right, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of the movie Life. Dang, I really had a good time in the theater. The synopsis reads, a team of scientists aboard the International Space Station discover a rapidly evolving life form that caused extinction on Mars, and now threatens the crew and all life on Earth. All right, so you've this premise, this kind of outline before we've seen. It's very much kind of like the classic Ridley Scott Alien outline, where it's like, we're all about science, and hey, let's do science, and oh, look at this, it's beautiful. Oh, the ramifications, all the things we can discover with this life form, and oh, it's wonderful. And then all of a sudden, something goes a little bit awry that they don't expect, and then like, oh crap, it's really dangerous, you know. And then it evolves and gets loose, and it changes over time, and it's picking off the crew as we're discovering more about it and how it works and how just dangerous it is, and then there's a final showdown. So, you know, you structurally you've seen this thing before. There's no real surprises there. But nevertheless, I was on the edge of my seat in suspense for almost the entire movie. Even in the quiet character building moments, which they don't spend a ton of time on, but I appreciate, that I was still wondering and waiting and like, okay, when and where and how is it gonna come next, you know? And when it attacks, it's like this invasive body horror, you know, type of creature attacks, and so that's another way in which it kind of evokes Alien or I don't want to say John Carpenter's The Thing, but monster movies where there's body horror involved. There's something going on wrong with a person inside their body, or something that gets on their body and does bad things to it, you know. So it's definitely that kind of a creature feature, and I just love that stuff. As far as the cast, it's a really solid cast. There's some familiar faces, most of the names I don't know, but the standouts for me were Ryan Reynolds, who I think just does a great job when he's doing drama and horror. I think that, you know, it's easy for a lot of people to think of him as just kind of like this comedic guy, but really he does some great stuff in the realm of both drama and horror that's worth checking out. And he does bring his kind of trademark cheeky Ryan Reynolds, you know, humor to this movie, but at the same time he does some really intense, you know, fear acting and stuff, you know, so it's really just a highlight of the movie for me. Jake Gyllenhaal also was really strong in this movie, and, you know, like Ryan Reynolds, he's playing a type of character that's similar to the characters that he's played before. He's a little distant, he's a little quiet, he's maybe just a touch odd, you know, but at the same time he was easy for me to relate to and to care about. Let's see here, what else? Oh yeah, let's talk about the stunts and the visuals. There's a constant weightlessness throughout this movie, which is one thing that I think kind of sets it apart from a lot of other space and sci-fi horror movies. They might have weightless sections in those types of movies, but this is weightless almost exclusively throughout the entire movie, and so it made the blood and the gore and kind of the killing moments and just kind of like how the people moved around and stuff. It just gave it a unique kind of feel and look and setting, you know, that I really appreciated. The CG creature, you know, is still definitely a CG creature, but they're looking better, okay? This is kind of a continued slight step forward. I want to say that it's kind of like the Prometheus quality. So, like, they went back and forth in the movie Prometheus between, like, some practical stuff and then also some CG stuff. But the CG stuff in that movie looked pretty good, and at times made me just wonder for a moment. It's like, oh, is that... Yeah, okay, yeah, that's CG, you know? And I had some similar moments here. I was like, oh, that could... No, okay, yeah, it's CG, but for a second there, like if it was a still shot, it's something that probably could have fooled me if I didn't see it in motion, you know? So it really looks nice. The creature design reminds me of the H.R. is it Giger or Geiger, who did the creature designs for Ridley Scott's Alien. Now, I don't mean that it looks like the actual main alien xenomorph, but it has some similarities maybe to the face huggers, or just some other kind of background, you know, biological, creepy alien type designs. So it kind of evokes that a little bit. Which I don't mind. I mean, it's I don't want to say it like is ripping off the face hugger. It just has like some qualities to it I can't quite put my finger on that remind me a little bit of the face huggers. Let's see here. Okay, so when I watch any kind of movie or play a game, I try to ask myself, okay, is this likely to trigger anything worthwhile in terms of thoughts about philosophy or spiritual matters or moral issues or anything like that? And I don't think so with this movie. It's not a preachy movie by any stretch, in my opinion. It's really just a fun movie to scare yourself with, but there are little nuggets that could lead to deeper thought, I think, if you're looking for that. Jake Gyllenhaal's character at one point talks about how he prefers life in space. He's been on that space station longer than anybody else, and he opens up to another character and talks about how he had spent some time in the military prior to this mission in his life with NASA or whatever, and that exposed him to just the senseless violence of humanity. And he's just, rightly recognizes that as a species we have a tendency to kill each other and to just do horrible things to each other, And I suspect that is meant to tie into, this creature and what it's doing to other life forms around it. Another scientist says that she hates the alien who is picking them off one by one throughout the movie, and she admits, I know it's not scientific, and another scientist observes that, kind of in the creature's defense, that it's only trying to survive, but she still hates it. She still hates this creature. So why can we find ourselves like hating dangerous animals like that dog that's like just, oh man, that's a freaky dog, and so I think it can trigger our fear, and then our fear kind of turns into hate for that creature or something like that. Or like, if I would certainly be probably swearing and yelling if I was stranded on a boat and there was like a shark going around, I'd be like summoning up rage in response to my fear. I think that in those moments we recognize that there's something wrong with the reality of death affecting us as humans. And maybe there's something wrong with death affecting any creatures in creation. So then we might ask, well, why then does God allow this? Is death in the animal kingdom part of what God called good in the Genesis creation account? Or did all forms of death affecting all forms of life enter the world because of human sin, as some Christians believe? And wrapped up in those questions are the topics of the creation accounts of the Bible, how they should be interpreted, and then the contrasting views held by Bible-believing Christians regarding the age of the earth. Now, you can find resources that will focus on one view or the other, but in my opinion, maybe the best place to start is to try and get an overview of them all, and then look into them, do further investigation. Dr. William Lane Craig does a great job with this in his Defenders teaching series, which is available in podcast format at reasonablefaith.org. Reasonablefaith.org. I recommend Series 2. He's currently in the process of teaching through Series 3, which is his third run through all that curriculum, which he does update and kind of polish as he goes through it each time. But Series 2 is the most recent complete curriculum of that entire series. Series 3 is gone. I'm actually listening to Series 3 right now as I jog, but it's not complete yet, so I'm going to catch up to it at some point. Starting from the beginning of that Series 2, I think, would be best, as the series and its topics kind of logically build one on top of the other. But in particular, the doctrine of Revelation, which it doesn't refer to the book of the Bible, Revelation, but just like the manner in which God reveals himself to humanity, be it through nature or through specifically God's word or through people, prophets, Jesus Christ, all the different ways in which God has revealed himself and continues to reveal himself to humanity. So that section is, I think, really important because it helps set a foundation for biblical interpretation, which is then going to be key as you go into creation and evolution, which is section 9, I think. So it's sections 2 and 9 of his Defenders Series 2. Anyway, all that at reasonablefaith.org. I think that stuff is just great for anybody who wants to explore biblical perspectives on history, the purpose, and the nature of the created world and the evils that it contains. So anyway, I leave that as a resource for you to check out. Okay, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I would go back in time and say, Peter, dude, this is a great flick. Don't worry about seeing it in the theater. You don't have to see it like right away, but do not miss this. In fact, maybe just buy it. Maybe just buy it as soon as it comes out, because you're not going to be disappointed in it. It may not necessarily warrant a second viewing because the creature isn't quite as interesting as some other monster movies. It doesn't have quite as much depth and change that it goes through over the course of the movie to kind of make that, to kind of scratch that itch of yours, but it's still a wonderfully executed movie that you're really going to enjoy. It's totally your type of thing. It's going to keep you on the edge of your seat like the whole time. It's rated R for language throughout, some sci-fi violence, and terror. All right, if you'd like to support Christian Geek Central and Spirit Blade Productions, you can find out how to do that by becoming a Spirit Blade Insider. Information is available on our About page at spiritblade.com. While you're there, you can check out our podcast, our weekly podcast, and our audio dramas. And then after that, I hope that you'll join us soon at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.